Welcome everybody. How are you liking SwanseaCon so far? Is it good? Yeah? Anybody that doesn't like it? Wow, I think Viv is a very happy man right now, even though he is somewhere else. All right, before I'm going to introduce myself and my presentation on 7 unmentioned challenges of Scrum, I'd like to know a tiny bit about you guys. Who of you is a developer? That's a pretty big group. Any operations people here by any chance? No, well, sort of. You're doing it right, probably. Any testers? Well, that's fair. Yeah, you test every now and then, right? Yeah. And what do the other people do that haven't raised their hands? Any managers? Technical writer. Ah, wow, that's the first time I've heard that before. Yeah, you can give her an applause. Yeah. Wow. You're welcome. I'll send you the bill afterwards. No. All right, thanks guys. My name is Maarten Kossen. I work for an awesome company called ProAwareness. And ProAwareness is a company that focuses on 3 things. It's trainings in Agile, Scrum, Kanban, and a whole range of technical things. Name a technical subject that one of our coaches knows something about, and we can basically set up a training around that. We also do transformations, meaning that we run around at customers. I'm currently at a Dutch insurance company where I'm helping them launch 2 new DevOps teams. And besides that, we have what is now called Agile Delivery Trains, and it's a very fancy word for saying an Agile team that helps you deliver software. We're still experimenting with the term, so if you like it, you should let me know afterwards. If you think it sucks, let me know as well, so I can give that back to the guys in the Netherlands. ProAwareness is a Dutch company, and I'm from the Netherlands as well. Like I said, I'm one of the coaches or technical Agile consultant, actually, and that mostly means, it's a fancy term, but it means that I have a background in IT. I used to program actually and be a Scrum Master, and after 10 years of about doing that, I wanted to help other teams and other organizations, so I joined ProAwareness. XP, Scrum, DevOps, those are like 3 terms that I like to put on myself as having experience with, like TDD, pair programming, really doing DevOps, infrastructure automation. Gonna give you some more examples about that. So before I'm gonna head into like the first challenge I experienced that you can face, I wanna put out a tiny disclaimer. These are challenges I have seen, and I realized when I got here I made a huge mistake, because the title in the flyer, in the program, is the 7 unmentioned challenges of Scrum, but it's supposed to be, well, 7 unmentioned challenges of Scrum, and mostly my 7 challenges of Scrum that I've seen that are not mentioned in the Scrum Guide. So I'm telling this in the hope that it will be very useful to you, and I have some nice stories I want to tell as well. And there's a small prize, because I appreciate it if you guys interact with me and give me feedback afterwards. So what I always do, if you come to me afterwards with a nice challenge or you have a nice question, I'm going to give away half a day of free coaching. And I think given that most of you are in the UK, it's going to be a full day. We need to travel here anyway, so better make it worthwhile. And you can use that for coaching or a workshop or whatever. So feel free to approach me with challenges and everything, and you may walk away with a free day of me, basically, if that's valuable to you. All right, on to the actual content. The first challenge I often see is implementing Scrum in the first place. How many of you here use Scrum? That's a pretty large group. How did you guys start with Scrum? Did you just start one day, or did you ease into it, or who has a story he or she wants to share? Started straight out, all right, yeah. And did you do like everything? Or well, everything that's in the Scrum Guide, it's only 11 things, or was that a big challenge for you?
I think we did everything badly.
It's better than not doing things at all. Everything badly at first is quite okay, because you need to get used to it, you need to learn it. What I see at quite some customers though, is that they have started with Scrum, and right from the start, they're doing the daily Scrum only 2 times a week. Or they're doing a retrospective with the entire management team present. Or they have a sprint backlog, but it's like this massive monster in Jira. And Scrum is really lightweight. Scrum doesn't say anything about how you should do stuff. It says about this is like the framework. These are a couple of things that can really help you develop software. And if you just start with that, like really doing like it's intended, without really testing or changing anything at all for a couple of sprints, that gives you the opportunity to really experience Scrum, and then you can really start that inspect and adapt loop that allows you to, well, make modifications where you see fit. So if you're going to start with Scrum, I'd say try it out for a couple of sprints. See if it works for you, and if not, try and make some alterations. Second challenge that I am seeing is the change of organizational culture. I think that a lot of Scrum teams say they're self-organizing, but they are really not. Who of you can really say they're a self-organizing team? Wow. And you're all doing Scrum. So what makes it that you are unable to call yourself a self-organizing team? Still, yeah, naturally, there's always some sort of management structure in a company, but yeah, you need to go get that freedom, basically. Yeah, all right, yeah, cool. Yeah, this is a big challenge for mostly the self-organization and the freedom, a big challenge for starting teams. And I've seen some organizations really handle this very well. There's a Dutch company website, and they actually wanted to give more freedom, but only when a team started showing responsibility. So they had like, yeah, but with freedom, well, with great responsibility comes great, something like that. But they had a maturity model, and if a team had like a certain responsibility and took a certain responsibility, like you mentioned, they could get more freedom. So there was like, for example, this one level where once they reached that maturity, they got control over their budget for notebooks and screens and keyboards and all that kind of stuff. Like, say it was 10K a year. But you had to prove that you were a responsible team first, because if you give an inexperienced team 10K a year to spend on something, there will be 10 PlayStations at the end of the day and a big load of beanbag chairs and nothing happens. But that's kind of the thing that you're looking for. And I think organizations should, if a team starts with Scrum, give them the freedom to have that self-organization within the team, but also within the organization as a whole. Another example, because this is quite a big subject actually, is Scrum should never be a goal, it's a tool. And implementing it can be a goal, but it shouldn't be the end goal. I've actually seen and coached a team that had Scrum all set up, did it for 2 sprints, and then they got a new project. Big organization, new project or new product, doesn't matter. That's in that case it was more a sense of terminology. And the guy that came up with the product actually said, like, what assurances can you give me? Can you make sure this is all finished by the end of January? The team said, yeah, sure. And I was like, guys, aren't you doing Scrum? And they said, no, we have already done that. We have like ticked the box on our plan, HR is happy, and we have done Scrum. That's a perfect example where the culture hasn't changed, where Scrum is seen as a means, and the organization can really help with that by enabling those teams. On to the next one. In the Scrum Guide, I think this is still called the Increment. It's like that little piece of software you could possibly ship at the end of a sprint. What I like to say is the releasable increment. Who here has actually, at the end of each sprint, a releasable increment that can go straight to production? You hesitated a bit. Where does the hesitation come from? Oh, I'll get to that later, yeah. There's actually a company I saw that had like a big red button, like all with the nuclear flap on top and everything. And when someone pressed that button, software would go live to their customer. Quite a big web shop actually, so it's not a really small joint. So, and what that did by introducing that, it forced the team to really work towards a releasable increment, rather than something that is, yeah, it's done, but, like, yeah, we finished it and it's releasable, but it's in a test environment with no production-like details or data at all. So then it's still not a releasable increment. So focusing on really being able to ship software whenever the product owner wants to at the end of the sprint is something that you should really work for, because that's the value you want to deliver. And that's what it's all about, delivering value to your customers. And if your increment is not releasable, you could say you have delivered value, but actually you haven't. So focus on a releasable increment. Developers, by a show of hands, who has seen the awesome video clip from Mr. Steve Ballmer going nuts on stage? Wow, if you haven't, you should look it up. It's like all sweaty guy, and he goes, developers, developers, developers. I'm not going to mimic it any further. I'm not going to bore you with that, but... sorry?
Please, just try.
Yeah, no. You're not going to get me that far now. I need a lot of beer before we do that. No, but he got it right, actually. It's all about developers. And with developers, I don't mean like the programmers, but I mean development team members. And the funny thing is, when we have a customer that starts with Scrum, they send someone over to a Scrum Master course. And then they send someone over to a Product Owner course. And they are just two people, maybe out of a team of, well, say 8 or 9. The big group of people hardly ever gets any training on how to deal with this new way of working. And the most things change for these people, because if they come out of a traditional environment and they work towards release in 6-month period, for example, that's a whole different approach from having to do it in, say, like 2 weeks. The best thing I've seen happen is one of my clients sending all their developers to a training. But what happened after they followed the Scrum developer training is that they really had all the tools and all the knowledge, knew about patterns and stuff like that, and really they experienced how it is to do Scrum. And they went back, and that team actually really, they saw an increase in productivity, but mostly fun in work. I mean, they now had the means to cope with whatever Scrum was to them. Who of you here has had any sort of training on how to deal with Scrum as a developer, from a developer perspective? Which course was that, if I may ask? Sorry? Okay. Haven't heard of that myself, but it's... and did it really help you get further? Yeah, sending an entire team as well is really useful, not just 1 or 2 developers, not just your lead developer, because then the team experiences it as a team. That helps as well. It's better than having sent you all to the product owner training. The Scrum Master training is actually quite a useful training, depending on where you get it, I assume. But it's about mastering Scrum, so it gets you all the details, but you don't get the experience you get in developer training. Like the professional Scrum developer training, I guess you guys know it from Scrum.org, that actually has a couple of sprints in it, where you work with gherkins and everything, where you actually create releasable software. So it's a really good training. And I think that developers are underrated. I mean, they're like, oh, they know what to do, they're the experts, but you guys need tools as well. Test automation. I heard a remark here, like sometimes it doesn't work at all. Test automation, it's a very, very broad and very generic term, but I think it's really important that if you start with Scrum, if you start with any iterative process, you really need to focus on writing automated tests and actually running them. I've had a great example of this having gone wrong, and I was part of my fault as well. We had like a big class that did all kinds of price calculations for a web shop. So it did the VAT, it did the shipping, it did the coupons, discounts, anything you could like, but there were no tests at all. The only test we did was like click through the process on the website and see if it works. And then there was a customer and the prices didn't add up. So we went to check in, went to do it again, and first time the time was 1 day to fix it, a month later 2 days, then 3 days. Never that light bulb moment, like, hey, maybe we should start writing automated tests. And as soon as we did that, we were able to test it really quickly and really work towards something releasable. So test automation is so incredibly important. I've seen a company start with Scrum and they had 4 developers, 2 consultants and 2 testers in the team, and they actually doubled the amount of testers in every team because the testers couldn't cope with the speed the developers were creating software at. That's exactly the opposite, in my opinion, of what you should be doing. You should be focusing on test automation and making sure it's run at every check-in before every release. Who of you doesn't do automated testing? Wow. And of those of you who do automated testing, do you mainly focus on the unit level, or is it mostly on the UI level, basically the upper ends, the pyramids? 50-50. So like 2 blocks basically. Okay, it's a good start. But I'd recommend focusing more on the unit level. It's easier, right? So on from test automation to operations. There was one sort of operations person in this room. Who of you have involved operations in your Scrum team, in your development team? Nobody. So how do you make sure that software releases go well?
I do the release.
Sorry?
I do.
You do the release. Right, and what about the environment and running the software? Who is responsible for that? It's their party.
Third party.
Yeah. Oh, third party. All right, yeah. And you don't have any issues with that? Don't experience any delays during handover or?
Well, this is like the mobile space, so Google is the third party.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, that's a different thing. For example, if you have like, I'm going to head back to the web shop example again. If you have like a web shop and you want to release something, I often had the issue where you release something and then a certain version of a software package was upgraded by an operations guy and you didn't have it in your local test environment and all kind of handover things and performance issues, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what I did at my previous job was like pull all the operations into the teams and make sure that we started automating things on that front as well. So basically call this infrastructure automation. And we made sure that the same Ansible playbooks we use on production were also used on the local development and the testing environment. So all environments were equal basically. And we could ship new versions of software with new versions of our software. So update packages that we anticipated on when releasing a certain new feature. And it really helped us like bridge that gap and make sure that we also got the responsibility of running the software and not just of building it. And that in turn led to us taking more responsibility. Like it's not like that's an operations issue, they look at performance and they tell us what's wrong. No, it's more like we are responsible, we are looking at it right now and we're making sure that everything runs properly. All right. We're already on to the last challenge, and I think this is actually the biggest one. The biggest challenge are teams themselves. Because if you have a proper team, I think you can face all the other challenges and solve them, even the organizational challenge. So, who of you has heard of the 5 dysfunctions of a team? By Patrick Lencioni. No? There's basically 5 dysfunctions he often sees in his team, and Patrick Lencioni is a management consultant, so he focused on management level, but it really applies to all kinds of teams, even to software development teams. And the pyramid goes like this. It goes from absence of trust to fear of conflict to a lack of commitment, avoidance of accountability, and inattention to results. It's a bit fast, but I recommend you read the book or at least the Wikipedia page. And this is such a powerful pyramid that I want to look at every team I coach and make sure that these symptoms are in there. I'm going to give you a great example of the trusting. I think that teams really need to trust each other in order to be effective as a team, in order to really solve issues. Also about cooperation, but also about things in work that don't go well. I've had a client where a pretty new team, and I was like, let's see how this goes. And during the second sprint retrospective they had, there's one guy, very small guy, sitting in a corner, didn't speak the language very well, so that was a barrier as well. He was like, actually, I want to raise an additional point. The past couple of weeks, I didn't really do anything because there's really no work for me. I mean, I'm a Java guy, you guys are all Oracle, and it doesn't really work for me. And I was like, wow, I was astounded that he was going to be so honest. And if you have like managers in the room, there's going to be all hell to pay because this guy didn't do anything the past couple of weeks, right? But he trusted the team. And what happened was the team said, like, look, we're going to see how we can help you. We're going to see how we can solve this problem for you. So if you really focus on improving the teams, on really working on those team dynamics, then you can really create a powerful team and face all the other challenges that I've just mentioned, and probably even more. All right, thank you. The offer is still open, by the way. If you have another nice challenge, come over to me and we'll have a chat, and maybe I can give away a free day of coaching. All right, thank you guys. Enjoy the day.